Hello everyone! If you had to fight one of these three, would you take your opponent seriously? Perhaps not. And that would be a mistake. People underestimate this bearded guy a lot, and by doing so, played right into his hands. The story takes place in a special group home for the disabled. Those who live here are looked after, but they are given much more freedom than one might think. The rooms in this group home are not at all like hospital wards, and two guys, Zolika and Barba, live in one of them. They are joined at the hip. They draw comics together and help each other, and sometimes they just fool around. For example, one day, Barba shows up in their room with a fire extinguisher and says that he stole it. Zolika is amused by it, and the two friends go outside to try out their new toy.
Okay. What was that?
Their fun is interrupted when a bearded man from the group home appears in the alley. He asks them for a light, and Barba kindly gives him a lighter. He warns the man that smoking is forbidden there. The man is about to leave when suddenly, it turns out that their mysterious group home neighbor used to be a firefighter. He tells Zolika that he pulled the bodies of small children out of burning buildings a bunch of times and orders them to put the fire extinguisher back where he found it. After that, the man turns around and drives away. But Zolika is offended by his behavior. He catches up to him and tries to hit him. The bearded man, however, turns out to be much stronger. And soon enough, Zolika is defeated. Having calmed down, the winner drives away to pee into a sewer grate. Then, one of the two friends asks him if he is by any chance Rupasov, the one who got into the group home after prison. The man does not give a direct answer and argues a little more with the boys. In the end, he invites them for drinks in the city center.
Kirio.
The boys are shocked by the number of drinks their new friend orders. Zolika asks him if he's a dealer. Rupasov laughs and asks why he would think that. However, he admits that he could use a little help at work. For example, he needs a driver. Barba happily volunteers. He has a car. Soon, Zolika lies down on a sofa, and Rupasov asks what's wrong with him. Barba tells him that his friend's back hurts, but their new friend does not show Zolika any sympathy. He says his back also hurts all the time, and feeling sorry for yourself never helps. Rupasov doesn't realize yet how serious Zolika's health problems are. The next day, the guy, accompanied by his mother, goes to the doctor and finds out that his condition has worsened. His spine urgently needs support because it rapidly curves and compresses his organs. Surgery is the only thing that can save Zolika's life. His mom tells the doctors that his father, who lives in Germany, is ready to pay for the expensive procedure and would be glad to finally help his son. But to the astonishment of the doctor and Zolika's mom, he flatly refuses the offer.
17 éve nem láttuk, és már mindenki nem vagyok rá kíváncsi.
Meanwhile, Rupasov has his own stuff to deal with. Extremely suspicious stuff. He meets a shady guy in a park who is sitting surrounded by 4 Rottweilers. The man passes a yellow package to Rupasov and reminds him to do the job well. Later, Barba and Zolika stop by a food truck to get some food for Rupasov. Meanwhile, the man is standing in the middle of nowhere and waiting for someone. A car suddenly arrives and 4 thugs get out. Another car with the 2 disabled friends arrives. One of the thugs looks contemptuously at Rupasov and suggests he joins the passengers of the car that has just arrived. When Rupasov tells him that he was sent there to pass on some information, the bandit just smirks. Rupasov tries to use gestures to tell the boys to leave, but the gang is already closing in on them. Their leader asks him what he's doing there, and Rupasov calmly tells him Rados, the man with the Rottweilers, was backing out of a deal and no longer wanted to work with their scumbag of a boss. The thugs, of course, are shocked by such impudence. Things are heating up, and the leader of the gang suddenly stabs his enemy in the leg with one sharp movement. But Rupasov does not feel anything. He is completely paralyzed from the waist down. Then, the leader kicks him in the chest, and the mercenary decides not to waste another second. After successfully completing the mission, Rupasov goes to the emergency room. There, he starts flirting with a nurse, and from their conversation it becomes clear that they used to date. The girl has a new boyfriend who recently proposed to her, and he forbids her from talking to Rupasov. At the same time, Rupasov's boss is walking by the river with his beloved Rottweilers. Seizing the opportunity, strangers hiding in a car start shooting at him and his dogs. One of the dogs falls, and the others immediately listen to the command of their owner, who by some miracle escaped death. After meeting his former lover, Rupasov gets drunk. The man remembers how happy he used to be before prison and how he ended up there. He was caught stealing bread and accidentally shot an officer that came to arrest him. Drunk Rupasov is seeing flashbacks and rushing from the group home at a crazy speed. He tries to throw himself down the stairs, but survives. The next day, he meets Rados and wants to get paid for his last mission. He claims that their enemies have grown tougher and have started to hunt for them. But Rados believes in his agent. Nobody takes Rupasov seriously because of the wheelchair, so he is able to deal with even the most dangerous enemies. For example, with the boss of an enemy clan called Tony. However, because he can get to Tony, he'll have to deal with his lawyer. There is one problem. Tony always has bodyguards around him and only goes to crowded places. That doesn't stop Rupasov. He only asks to be paid more and promises to deal with everything. Rados is happy. It's obvious he doesn't care if Rupasov survives or not. All he worries about is keeping the mission a secret. At the group home, Rupasov is working out in the rehabilitation therapy hall. He is trying to learn how to walk again using prosthetics, but so far he hasn't had much success. Zolika sees it. He drives up to his friend and says that he and Barba would like the three of them to work as a team. The new mission hasn't begun yet, and Zolika goes to a comic book festival with his loyal friend. A contest of young talent is taking place there. The boys are taking part in it. They don't get the prize, but one of the local publishers praised their idea. He thinks they just need to work on the plot some more. Their dreams of publishing it is shattered. Meanwhile, Rupasov does not give up on his dreams. He goes to the hospital where he sees his ex with flowers, but sees her leave work and literally falls into the arms of her new boyfriend. A little later, the events unfold in the city center. Rupasov stands on a pedestrian street and watches Tony's lawyers have lunch on the terrace of a cafe surrounded by two men. The mercenary is not acting alone. Zolika and Barba are nearby, ready to cause a distraction and come to the rescue at any moment. They pretend to be feeding birds. However, as soon as the lawyer comes outside, while the scared citizens are looking around, the bodyguards examine the windows in search of the sniper, and the boys quickly leave the crime scene. This is seen by Rados, who controlled the whole mission from a car nearby. Zolika finds himself in the doctor's office with his mother again, but keeps looking at his phone and insisting that he doesn't want the surgery. The doctor scolds him for staring at the phone, and Zolika immediately grows angry, swears, and leaves the office. His mom catches up to him and scolds him for acting so disrespectfully. But there's no stopping Zolika. He shouts that his mother has been lying to him his whole life. He thinks his father left not because he and his mom were having issues, but because he was ashamed of his crippled son. Zolika's mom tries to calm her son down. She says his father just wanted to immigrate, and she did not follow him because of her Olympic career. But Zolika doesn't even want to listen to her. Rupasov goes to the group home by bus and meets his beloved there. She invites him to the wedding, and the man unexpectedly agrees. But in the evening, Rupasov is in for a much less pleasant meeting. Rados is furious because of what he saw the day before.
Senki sem tudta volna megcsinálni neked ezeket a melókat.
Azért vagy életben, de a társaidra nincsen szükség. Nyírd ki őket a picsába, vagy te vagy én.
Rupasov is faced with a difficult choice. Either to lose the money and the dream of getting new legs, or to get rid of his new friends. Without hesitation, he decides to take Zolika and Barba fishing. Barba suddenly gets lucky and the fish start to bite. He can't get it out of the river, and Rupasov seizes the chance and pushes Barba into the water. Zolika does not understand why his friend decided to pull such an evil prank. He asks him to help pull Barba out, but instead, Rupasov pushes him off the pontoon too. The boys don't know how to swim, so Rupasov doesn't even have to do anything else. Even though he killed many strangers before, now it's hard. Rupasov meets his boss again. Rados wants to know how he killed his friends, and Rupasov says that he drowned them in the river. His boss is pleased with the killer's obedience and tells him the good news. They found out where the formidable mafia boss Tony is hiding. All Rupasov needs to do is knock on his door and tell him a story Rados had already come up with. The men split up, but late in the evening, Rados watches Rupasov at the group home and is convinced that he has not got rid of his partners after all. The Rupasov's partners waste no time. They are trying to hide weapons for the next mission in an old wheelchair cushion. All three of them arrive at Tony's house, but Rupasov forbids them from going in with him. He asks Zolika to call the cops if he doesn't come back in 20 minutes, and goes to visit the mafia boss. Rupasov tells the security guard that he has a message from Tony's brother. He then tells Tony he shared a prison cell with his brother for 6 months and was only released a day before. After the killer tells the criminal boss the name of the surgeon who operated on his brother, Tony lets him into the house. But first, they search him without noticing anything suspicious. Once inside, the mafia boss suddenly starts talking about football deals with Russians, and different mentalities. But Lupusov does not intend to befriend him. He asks directly what that has to do with anything. Tony admits that his brother died 2 days ago, and he immediately realized that the stranger in front of him was deceiving him. Lupusov has no choice but to grab the cushion and open fire. Bullets hit several bodyguards, but Tony manages to hide in another room. However, not for long. Lupusov is running out of time. It's been almost 20 minutes, so he needs to get back into the car at once. He barely reaches the gate and finds out that it has been locked. He panics, calls Zolika and asks him to drive up to the gate, and then orders Barba to ram them with his own car. But before he can do that, they hear a police siren in the distance, even though Zolika did not call the cops. Lupusov tells Zolika to meet the cops and buy him some time. Zolika succeeds. He stops a patrol car and tells the officers that 2 suspicious men have just taken off running in the opposite direction. Barba, meanwhile, deals with the gates. After a couple hours, the 3 friends are already sitting by a fire and burning Lupusov's wheelchair. However, for some reason, he is not at all happy about the success of the mission. He says that Zolika and Barba are nothing but trouble, so he will pay them and they will not work together anymore. Lupusov goes to Rados expecting to be paid, but his boss brings him to a strange place. Rados informs Lupusov that it's time for them to say goodbye and points to the gallows that he has prepared for him. The man doesn't want to hang himself, but his boss threatens him with the Rottweilers and makes him do it. Left alone, Lupusov manages to chew through the bindings on his hands. Meanwhile, Zolika's health is only getting worse. Barba takes care of him and shows him a new part of the comic based on their adventures with Lupusov. The story is coming to an end. In the dead of night, the phone in their room rings. Their friend has changed his mind and decided to meet them again. In his room, Lupusov tells his friends that Rados will be looking for them, and the only way to escape is to act quicker than him. Barba suddenly has a good idea: to throw a phone with a GPS turned on into the boss's car and track his movements. While Lupusov goes to his ex's wedding with Zolika, Barba goes on a secret mission with 2 guys. Everything goes wrong. Lupusov starts hitting on the bride during the wedding, and Barba and his assistant almost get captured by Rados. But a new day comes, and the trio is already waiting for the criminal boss near his house. The idea with the navigator worked. In the evening, Rados comes back home like nothing had happened. Lupus and Zolika are waiting for him there. The killer who had risen from the dead demands his money that he earned, but Rados doesn't budge. He shows them the key to the safe and suggests that they take the money for themselves, but the dogs will immediately attack them if they see a gun. Lupusov only says that he likes challenges, and breaks all the expectations of his opponent. But Rados does not give up. He pulls out a knife and starts to fight Lupusov, eventually inflicting several fatal wounds on him. Before he dies, Lupusov shouts and tells Zolika to shoot. The guy looks away and kills Rados at point-blank range. He says goodbye to Lupusov and takes the money from the safe and leaves. A few days later, Zolika is talking to the doctor again. Now that he has earned the money, he agrees to the surgery and goes to Germany with his mother. In the town they come to, a delivery guy brings a parcel to the man. The man's name is Mr. Lupusov, and the package contains a comic book by his son. To his surprise, the man discovers that the main character of the book is himself. We understand that the whole story with the killer Lupusov, from beginning to end, was a figment of the imagination of Zolika and his friend. 4 months pass. The friends are back at the comic book festival. The judges are about to announce the winner among amateurs and call someone else's name. But after the award ceremony, one of the judges approaches the boys and admits that she liked their comic the most because drawing comics about yourself is very unusual. She says that she would like to publish it and leaves to negotiate with her partners, for the moment leaving the happy friends to dream about their new life. Tell us in the comments down below how you feel about such plot twists and whether you managed to guess how the story would end. Maybe you know movies with similar endings. In the meantime, see you in the next video. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.